What's going on, everybody? Greg Dawes, GD, non-attorney pro se consultants, and I have determined that I'm going to at least open up this part of it so people can get an idea of what I do here and what my intentions are. And I wanted to let everybody know, as I do in all my lives or all my whatever I do, I'm not an attorney. I don't licensed to practice law. I do not practice law. What I've done is study law and tell people what I've learned and how I gather that information. And 99% of it has come through my life's lived experiences. So I don't give information as advice to apply to your specific case, but as general information regarding the law and lawful principles, which do belong to the people. So please use any information obtained through any of my lives for educational edification only. The reason I say that is because I want nothing I say to be construed to be legal advice. If you feel you need legal advice, I would highly encourage you to hire a licensed and hopefully competent attorney and be legally advised. And with that being said, thank you to anybody who's watching, and I appreciate the growth that we've seen. And I want to say this before I get into the meat of this live, because I'm not going to be here for very long. I have so many things I have to get done. But I wanted to say that we need to stop pretending that everybody out here who has information to provide is giving you information that has your best interest at heart. And I don't take shots at people who aren't around to defend themselves. I welcome open dialogue on any platform or debate about anything that I've done or I show you all. And it could even explain it, which I think is how the community grows. I'm not here to be Greg's fish market. Now, I would like to teach everybody how to fish so that people can be self-sufficient and independent. I don't want people to want to need me for future successes in anything. You should never have to depend on any one person, because if that, if that head dies, then the entire thing goes away with it. And we're at a critical stage or phase in this country, really, where we need more people sufficiently informed so that the community can continue to advance and people can get whatever relief they want. I want people self-sufficient because, like I said, I know that somewhere out there is a much better version of me. I got this way because 20 years ago or so, when I first had my first encounter with the Department of Revenue and child support, I wasn't close to where I've come. And a lot of what I've dealt with on the back end came because not only have I had success in child support cases for myself and helping other people, in addition to a lot of the L's I took in the beginning, I'm self-represented when it comes to traffic cases, which most of my traffic cases were I was facing jail time, and we know my perjury case. I've also litigated when it comes to auto negligence cases. And I have a case in the federal court which I sued for malicious prosecution. I've done appeals. I have a case currently in the 11th Circuit, the Federal Court of Appeals, from the malicious prosecution case that I had in Hillsborough County. And any of the stuff that you can see, my given name is Greg Dawes. I try to be I wish to be as transparent as possible because I think that's how people get further. And as you see in the background, I'm not about gatekeeping. I'm about helping people get as far as they can, so that even if you come to me for a consultation, we're able to speak the same language, because that's how people get further. So if there's any suggestions that people have, because eventually I'm going to take this from this open platform to go to members only, which is this show is supposed to have been a members only show. But I figured, let me go ahead and just throw something out there, give people an idea. And if you like what you see here, you want to come back to watch it, you'll be able to watch it as a member later on. But for right now, I just want to throw this stuff out here because some of the information that's out here, I'm going to say, is information that I was introduced to, 15, 16 years ago, that what I've never witnessed is somebody can go and show me from start to finish litigation using some of these phrases and what have you. I don't have a way of doing things that's not prescribed by law. I'm not that way. And let me say this also, I did spend time working with a law firm, and I learned a lot from attorneys. And I spent some time as an independent paralegal or researcher for a couple of attorneys, and I won't mention the name because that stuff is confidential for a reason. But my time as a legal assistant and stuff, everybody knows about that. That's not a secret, even throughout Hillsborough County, of Florida, which is where 99% of all my stuff has been. But back to what this is about. Let's, like I said, let's stop pretending everybody out here has your best interest at heart. Some of these people want you to depend upon them so they can milk you. I don't want you calling me that much. But I do have, stuff that you can go in here with membership and watch a lot of the stuff that we've talked about and help build up the community. There are some real world consequences for you having blind trust in people. You can lose legally, you can waste your time, you can be misdirected to a point where pulling you out of the catastrophe is extremely difficult. And you don't want to be that way, even if you may want to get an attorney. You don't want to put yourself in such a bad situation that the attorney can't help you out of it, because you may have some remedy in ways that you may have overlooked something. So I say that because if you get a person that helps you, if you want to come to me, you shouldn't even want me to help you if I'm not trying to teach you to think for yourself. Otherwise, I'm essentially making you a mark. Nobody should want to be a mark. You should say, listen, I want to be able to get better at what I do later on so that I can pass it along to your kids, your family members, or what have you. And that's why I take the approach that I take. I'm not saying anybody else is wrong. I'm just saying why I do what I do the way that I do what I do, and why I am transparent. You go to my page and you can see me inside of courtrooms, hearings, and what have you. And again, anything anybody has a question with, reach out to me. The phone number that you see, the 813-570-9617, is my phone number. The gdnapsey@gmail.com is my email. I know I need to get a personalized one. I never came into this really to make it grow to this right here, but I think that because of the conditions of this nation right now, particularly politically and otherwise, people need to be informed. And I just came off of Chop Shop, and if you could go in, subscribe to the Chop Shop show, you'll see me in my persona is Rough. On there, we talked about education, and one of the things that came up is a lot of people can't read, and this should not be the case. I'm 57 years old, Lord, when I'll be 58 in March. We should be much further along today than where we were 40 years ago, and I don't see that. And this is my lived experience. And for those that don't know, I also spent time in the military. I know that I lack certain marketing allures. I may not be as charismatic in doing this as I am when I'm in the courtroom, but one thing that a lot of the gurus has is they are charismatic. A lot of times they give you certain vague phrases to use and all this other stuff, and they're vague in their presentation, and they kind of sell you things that don't have really any real context. And in fact, a lot of them, from what I've learned, aren't even showing you anything that they've done from start to finish. And I'm just saying, just to be careful, people. I'm not saying not to go with any of these guys. I'm just saying be careful and vet them like you would vet anybody else. If you wouldn't go to a mechanic if that mechanic has never shown you a proficiency at doing something, or he didn't come with a reputation. And again, I wouldn't tell you to trust me. So you should never just trust anybody blindly or rely on somebody to say, hey, I'm going to tell you what I think you need to know. That's not going to benefit you, man. It's just not. And if anybody can show anything to the contrary, have them show it to you. Because I can show you what I've done and it never tells you how I did it, or the amount of work it goes in to be proficient. Because don't forget that, especially when it comes to child support or something like that, you're only in that hearing for a short period of time, maybe 30 minutes at max. If you don't get the most out of it and set yourself, and again, this is not legal advice, but if you don't create a good record for appeal, you're going to get your doors blown. And what we do here is we try to help people become better suited to stand on their own. In fact, I worked in the school system for about 3 years before I ended up going to UPS. I became a union steward at UPS. And all this is even after my military experience. So my adversarial experience, my adversarial chops kind of came from being a union steward for the Teamsters at UPS. And of course, it did help also that I had several other incidences where I couldn't afford adequate legal representation. And speaking of which, I also had the benefit of, in not just in the military, in my parents being retired military, there's something that you get from having great leadership, and there's a difference between leadership and being controlled people. People control you when they limit what they want to have you to give you access to, uh, or if it's not in a structured way that helps you come from under their net, so to speak. Um, and being transparent allows you to become empowered. If I can show you where I've failed and show you where I've had success, you can take it and measure it based upon your set of facts to get you where you need to be. Um, Everybody who's come through me who's had success that you may see the testimonies on my page, they'll tell you that they became successful because I forced them to be independent. It's like you go into a courtroom, you have to be intellectually nimble. If you go in there and you're static, or you think I'm just going to throw out this phrase and it's going to work, you're fooling yourself. They didn't build these big buildings with mahogany all throughout, marble and all that, letting people say a couple phrases and get out. That's not even being an adult about your approach to things. Um, it's better if somebody who's done that, just like attorneys when they used to rail me for not doing a good job with the attorney, particularly when I work with, and I appreciate it. He stayed on my ass about paying attention to detail and doing things a certain way. And all I do is pass along my experiences and what I learned to other people. Yes, I have a background as well. I've taken some law classes and taken other classes as a part of my academic background. I haven't been to law school, but these things helped me. I did have a really tough uh, English lit teacher, a couple of them in college that helped me become more proficient. So when it came time for me to do some of this stuff, and I let go of some of that other stuff and all this so-called jargon, and went back to my foundation or the basis of my academics or my education, I see this stuff started to work for me a lot better. Learning how to write legally and what have you. Yeah, I took, came through a couple of classes, but and also the experience, learning how to issue spot. These things help me. Otherwise, I'd have spent them 5 years in prison. Otherwise, those 7 or 8 cases I won for driving out license, which I don't recommend anybody get into those situations. It doesn't happen if there wasn't some foundation that I could rely upon. And you can go inside the Dropbox and you can listen to the entire proceedings. You'll see the struggle. You'll see the end result being the dismissal. And those are just for the ones that are inside the Dropbox. You can look at the Dropbox as far as I think inside there you'll be able to see the end results, like you'll see the dispositions of all these cases, which I have no problem showing people. That's why I put it in the Dropbox. But I don't. Again, I want to make sure I always say in preferencing get an attorney, especially if you have your freedom on the line. Actually, get an attorney for anything. Even if you get consultations from attorneys, those things benefit you. Um, Part of becoming better at what you want to do, particularly when it comes to being self-represented litigant, uh, you want to learn how to what they call issue spot, and you can look up these things, issue spots, and these things are um, designed to help get you where you want to get. So issue spotting lets you ask, you want to learn how to ask the question that best directs you toward a positive outcome. You want to look at I've learned to look at sources because I don't want to tell you what to do. I learned these things help me. I look at what they call primary sources. Like I read the statutes if the statute's applicable. If there's no statute, then you're going to look for that's where common law comes from, where there's court created law. And then I look for precedent in that area to get where you need to get or where a person needs to be. And this is not, I wouldn't even say take my word for it. Don't take anything I say at face value. Go look it up for yourself. Become an independent thinker. And then also, one of the things that I learned to do when I do certain research is you want to cross-reference from different places to make sure that you're in the right place. Well, one thing I'll say is depending on your state, you want to first go to your state for a legal precedent. Your state statutes, your state rules of civil procedure, rules of criminal procedure, if applicable, and also how the courts held if a set of facts are most directly linked to your set of facts. And again, I'm not about the gatekeeping. I'm about helping people learn how to be better. Now, I'm going to say what I learned also. I'm going to kind of pivot toward what I learned in my court experiences. I've been inside that courtroom in one fashion or the other over 200 times, and of the numerous appearances I've had to make inside of court cases, whether child support, traffic, the criminal cases, what have you. Even the time that I spent watching the attorneys I work with or did some work do what they do. I spent a lot of time in courtrooms just watching the process so that I could, kind of get an idea. I was always kind of confident. And I played football. I, competed my whole life. So I was never really afraid, so to speak. And uh, my background growing up helped me with that. My parents are military. I've lived all over the world, so I've seen different so-called systems. But when it comes to self-representation, let's keep in mind that the system is built on like keeping those who are not quote unquote a part of it outside. So it keeps you, kind of silent, when people kind of you look at how people go into courtrooms, it's almost like it's cookie cutter. So there, it either scares you into silence, the language confuses you, and in fact, some people can easily be intimidated. When I first started going, I was intimidated, kind of a little afraid of how it was going to go because I knew what I thought, and then I had to figure out, okay, what am I going to learn through the process? One of the things that helped me become better at this is I was willing to admit what I didn't know. That's why going to an attorney for a consultation, if I knew I couldn't afford his services, I'm like, okay, how can I get a little bit of insight? And I may have been blessed to have certain attorneys that kind of, I would say, gave me some game and things to look for. And hey, I was appreciative of it. And in turn, I try to turn it over to people because I don't think it's not about what one person is better than the other. It's just about helping the community get better at helping each other. Because essentially, if 8 or 9 guys, or four guys, and you all are kind of equally familiar with the information, and you go to real information, learning how to use, how to shepherdize cases, how to read the law for what's there, how to read case synopsis or syllabus, and understanding what was asked of the court and how did the court rule, what were the facts that brought them to that. All these things help you become better as a self-represented litigant, and it helps you get closer to what you want to be. And even if you get an attorney, even if you have an attorney, never forget he or she is your attorney, but it's still your case. So at the end of the day, the attorney's going to go home. What are you going to do? So it would probably help to be as sufficiently informed so that you can help your attorney, because ultimately him being successful helps you be successful. And again, all that I hope to do is to help the community build on an each one teach one basis. Somebody passed down information to me. I stand on the shoulders of a lot of great people. And even when I wasn't as appreciative as I probably should have been, I'm grateful for the experiences because otherwise some of the outcomes would be worse. Or I would probably have been easily dissuaded from continuing my battle, even the ones now. Like I said, I've done numerous appeals. And you can go look them up. And I have plenty of videos where I show all the appeals that I've done. I've done oral arguments in front of the Second District Court of Appeals. In fact, I've done oral arguments that you can actually see on my page on this channel, and just watch how the process went. And even when I didn't get a particular ruling, I understand whether that ends it or it doesn't end it. I've even gotten to the point where they're so upset with me, they tried to sanction me, but they don't want to give me an evidentiary hearing, which is part of the process. And that's another thing I tell people: learn the process. So that's what was told to me. What is the rule? What is the issue? What is your rule? How do you apply it? How do you conclude you're entitled to relief? What's the process by which you can get to finality with your case? So I'll say this in closing, because it's not necessary to bemoan a situation, is you want to start questioning people who give you information. Even me, like I say, please question me. You want to start sharing good information or relevant information and correct information, the truth. And when you approach this, don't approach it with this attitude that I need somebody to save me. Approach it with the attitude is, what can I learn from this individual? If that individual is not trying to help you learn and saying, hey, just trust me to do this, he doesn't walk or she doesn't walk you through the entire process so that they can give you a coherent understanding of what's going on, or you can gain a coherent understanding, probably not the person for you. And I would highly suggest you seek legal representation because it can be serious. The outcomes can be serious, and sometimes having bad information may cause you to waive otherwise a protection. So keep in mind, at the end of the day, if you're not learning something, you're actually losing, and you don't want to be in that situation. So that being said, is always imparting. I say this, and as a recap, don't let anybody convince you to rely upon them, and especially somebody who's not trying to help you become who they are. That's why we have the no gatekeeping thing up here. Make sure that each step along the way, you do what's necessary to bring yourself to where you need to be for yourself and for anybody else you want to come behind you. And also always move with I hope we can move with a sense of community building so we can all get where we need to go. And again, if anybody has any thoughts, questions, or comments, please feel free to inbox me, text me, what have you. I do answer my phone. I don't run, I don't hide, I don't dodge. I only dodge folks on the football field when I played, but I did block as well. But with that in mind, as always in closing, sometimes it's not about right or wrong. More importantly, it's about clarity. You never reach resolution if you're not willing to engage in honest dialogue, even if that dialogue is with yourself. Take time to hug the person you love, another person you hug. On behalf of GD9 Attorney Pro Se Consultants, I'm Greg Doss. I'm the infamous DJ Squid. I am saying peace. I am saying chicken grease. I'm out.